The United States Supreme Court has just ruled against Donald Trump and his efforts to remove from office the head of the Office of Special Counsel, Hampton Dellinger. It's not an office devoted to prosecution like Jack Smith's special counsel. It's a term of art being used for an organization that's responsible for things related to the enforcement of laws related to federal workers, an important position. But Donald Trump doesn't want Hampton Dellinger. He doesn't want independent watchdogs. He doesn't want anybody serving out a 5-year term on his watch. And so he fired him without cause. And the problem is, by firing him without cause, he violated the due process rights, overly qualified for the position. If you ever wanted an ethical, stand-up, trustworthy fellow or woman to take that position, you want somebody that looks and acts exactly like Hampton Dellinger. The way it works in court, a little bit of a legal breakout session, is if you have a temporary restraining order, which is only in place for a short amount of time, in this case, it's only in place for about 5 days, you wait until there's a preliminary injunction of one Hampton Dellinger, who ran in an emergency injunction and obtained a temporary restraining order from a federal court judge in the District of Columbia, at which time then the courts of appeal have jurisdiction. They generally don't have jurisdiction over temporary restraining orders.
Guess what Trump thought he could get away with as president? Literally shooting someone on Fifth Avenue. And that's not even the craziest thing he claimed immunity for. The Supreme Court just delivered a massive reality check, telling Trump his immunity claims are as real as a $3 bill. Chief Justice Roberts actually used those words. Let's break down this ruling that's got Trump throwing a temper tantrum like a toddler who dropped his ice cream cone. So Trump's lawyers waltzed into the Supreme Court thinking they had this immunity thing all wrapped up like a McDonald's burger in tiny hands. I mean, these guys seriously argued that presidents should be immune from prosecution for anything they do while in office. The beautiful irony here is that even the justices Trump appointed were dismantling his arguments. The justices kept coming back to this wild idea that maybe, just maybe, nobody is above the law in America. Crazy concept, right? Even presidents have to follow rules.
First stop on the train is Chief Justice Roberts. Why? But not just because he's the chief of the Supreme Court, but because any appeal that comes out of the DC, the Trump administration, by claiming that the Supreme Court has power under what is referred to as the All Writs Act, but that's very narrow in application. It doesn't apply to the facts of this case. Appellate courts goes firstly to Chief Justice Roberts on an emergency application. He could have denied this on his own, but he decided, I guess, anything related to Trump, he's going to throw it back to the entirety of the 9 justices of the panel.
Telling Trump his immunity claims are as real as a $3 bill. Chief Justice Roberts actually used those words. Trump's lawyers were basically arguing that a president could commit any crime as long as they somehow connected it to their official duties. Trump's team was busy arguing that selling nuclear secrets or ordering assassinations would be perfectly fine if labeled an official act. I mean, who needs checks and balances when you can just call anything you want presidential business? Remember when candidate Trump famously boasted he could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody without losing voters? Well, surprise. His legal team basically tried turning that campaign brag into actual constitutional law. Things got even wilder when Trump's lawyers actually argued with straight faces that a president could sell nuclear secrets to foreign countries and still claim it was an official act. Because nothing says America first like putting launch codes on eBay with the description "slightly used best offer, no refunds." Justice Sotomayor told Trump's team they were making a complete mockery of American democracy, a system that somehow managed to survive nearly 250 years without presidents declaring themselves kings in golf pants. The lawyers kept trying to expand presidential powers to cartoonish proportions. According to their arguments, a president could technically order the military to overthrow Congress, and as long as he signed the order with his official Sharpie, it would all be totally legal. When asked about limitations, Trump's team acted like they were playing legal Twister, contorting themselves into impossible positions just to avoid saying presidents can't commit crimes. Trump's lawyers were sweating through their Brooks Brothers suits, trying to explain how taking a suitcase of cash in exchange for an ambassadorship is just normal presidential business. The justices kept pushing with increasingly absurd scenarios. So could a president order SEAL Team 6 to eliminate a political rival? Trump's lawyers dodged these questions like Neo in The Matrix, but without the cool special effects. Just awkward pauses pauses and painful verbal gymnastics. When Justice Barrett asked if there were any limits to presidential immunity, Trump's lawyer hesitated so long you could practically hear the Jeopardy theme playing in the background. The entire courtroom was thinking the same thing. Is this really that difficult a question? By the time the arguments wrapped up, the Supreme Court had essentially been asked to choose between the Constitution and Donald Trump's imagination, a place where presidents are more powerful than Superman, but with less ethical restraint. The justices, including Trump's own appointees, chose the Constitution. Shocking, I know. Even though they were picked by Trump, they weren't willing to give him the blank check for lawbreaking he so desperately wanted. Imagine thinking you've stacked the deck in your favor, only to have the cards remind you they're still just playing by the rules of the game. Cancel save.